High Hunt Master Zexer stood before the great council of Nexor, his iridescent scales gleaming under the purple light of their 3 suns. The council chambers, with their towering spires made of bones from legendary hunts, seemed to lean in to hear his words. He had practiced this speech for what felt like decades, though in reality it had only been a few standard rotations. Esteemed council members, he began, trying not to preen too obviously, I bring news of a discovery that will cement our place as the greatest hunters in the known galaxy. He paused for dramatic effect, something he'd learned from watching too many historical hunt documentaries. We have found Earth. The silence that followed was about as impressive as a Gork's failing its first hunt, which is to say, not at all. One of the council members actually yawned, displaying an impressive array of serrated teeth, and Elder Crix asked, clearly wondering if she could squeeze in a quick nap before her afternoon hunt. But Zexer had anticipated this reaction. With a gesture, he activated the holographic display in the center of the chamber. The image of a blue-green planet materialized, rotating slowly to reveal continents and oceans. What makes this discovery significant, he continued, his voice taking on an edge of excitement, is its inhabitants. The hologram shifted to show various scenes of human civilization, cities, vehicles, and most importantly, humans going about their daily lives. They call themselves humans, Zexer explained. Bipedal, mostly hairless except for these weird patches, and they have absolutely no natural defenses. No claws, no venom, no extra limbs for combat. They're practically begging to be hunted. That got their attention. The council members straightened in their bone thrones, their hunting ridges rising with interest. Even Elder Crix's third eye widened with curiosity. Our long-range scanners show they spend most of their time in artificial structures, Zexer continued, warming to his subject. They rarely venture into the wild spaces of their world, and when they do, they carry primitive tools for protection. It's almost cute, really, like watching a baby Nexorian trying to hunt with a toy spear. The council chamber erupted in laughter. Elder Crix wiped a tear from her third eye. They sound delightful. Almost too easy, though. Where's the challenge? Zexer clicked his mandibles in what passed for a smirk among his kind. That's the beauty of it. We can use them for training our younglings. Think about it, a safe, controlled environment for first hunts. No more losing promising young hunters to the razor beasts of Krail or the phantom predators of the void plains. Their defenses, another council member asked. Surely they have some form of military? Oh yes, Zexer said, trying not to snort. They have these adorable metal vehicles that roll on the ground and flying machines that move slower than a sedated Blorks. Their weapons use chemical propulsion, practically ancient technology. The most advanced thing we've detected is something they call nuclear weapons, which they're apparently too scared to even use. The council members shared knowing looks. Everyone remembered their first encounter with a truly primitive species. It was always good for a laugh at future hunting gatherings. Very well, Elder Crix declared, her hunting ridges now fully extended in anticipation. Prepare a hunting party. We'll make this an official first blood expedition for the upcoming graduation class. What none of them knew was that far below on Earth, in a highly classified facility deep beneath Cheyenne Mountain, Lieutenant Sarah Rodriguez was staring at her monitor with growing excitement. The Deep Space Monitoring System had just picked up something that definitely wasn't a natural phenomenon. General Thompson, she called out, her fingers flying across the keyboard. You're going to want to see this. The general appeared behind her shoulder moments later, coffee cup frozen halfway to his mouth. On the screen, complex energy signatures pulsed in patterns that couldn't be anything but artificial. Define this, Lieutenant, he said, though his tone suggested he already knew. The energy signature matches nothing in our database, sir. And it's... She paused, double-checking her readings, it's decelerating. Controlled deceleration at the edge of our solar system. The general's coffee cup never made it to his lips. Get me Commander Chen. Now. Across the base, Commander Chen was already awake despite the ungodly hour. She stood in the training room, watching her team run through their millionth simulation of first contact scenarios. They'd been preparing for this possibility since the classified Pentagon report 3 months ago suggested Earth wasn't as alone as people thought. Her phone buzzed. Chen. Commander, we have a situation. Code Omega. Chen didn't even blink. About damn time. We were starting to get bored down here. Within 20 minutes, Chen stood before a gathering of Earth's top military brass, both in person and via secure video link. The atmosphere was tense, but she noticed more than a few excited grins. They'd been preparing for this moment for years. Ladies and gentlemen, she began, it seems we have visitors. And based on their approach vector and attempt at stealth, they're not here for a diplomatic cup of tea. She pulled up a holographic display of their own, showing the alien vessel's trajectory. They're trying to be subtle, but their stealth technology isn't as advanced as they think it is. We've been tracking them since they entered the Kuiper Belt. Their intentions, someone asked. Chen's smile was sharp. Based on their behavior patterns and the data we've gathered, they're hunters. They think they've found easy prey. She paused, looking around the room. I suggest we teach them otherwise. You want to engage them? A general asked. We could just blast them out of the sky. With all due respect, sir, where's the fun in that? Chen's team, scattered around the room, shared knowing smiles. Besides, our visitors clearly think they're the apex predators here. I say we give them the full Earth experience. She gestured, and the hologram shifted to show a detailed tactical map. We've prepared for this scenario. Operation Welcome Party is ready to execute. We've got thermal dampeners, acoustic scramblers, and the new active camouflage suits. Plus, she grinned, a few surprises R&D has been dying to field test. Back in space, the Nexorian ship continued its approach, its crew blissfully unaware that they were flying straight into a trap. Hunt leader Vixel watched his young charges prepare their weapons and hunting gear, each one certain they were about to participate in the easiest hunt of their lives. In the mountains below, Commander Chen checked her equipment one last time. The new adaptive camouflage rippled across her suit like liquid shadow. Her team was in position, environmental mimetics active, weapons hot but silent. All units, check in, she whispered into her comm one by one. Her team responded, their positions creating a perfect kill box around the projected landing zone. Remember, people, she said, allowing herself a small smirk, we're not just defending Earth here. We're teaching an object lesson in the dangers of underestimating your prey. Let's show these aliens what happens when you try to hunt the hunters. The night was still, the air electric with anticipation. Above, the Nexorian ship began its final descent, its occupants blissfully unaware they were flying straight into a trap. Chen clicked off her comm and whispered to herself, "Welcome to Earth, you overconfident lizards. Class is in session." Part 1 ends with the stage set for the confrontation, establishing both the aliens' arrogant misconception of humanity as easy prey and humanity's prepared response. The next part will detail the initial contact and the beginning of the hunters becoming the hunted. The Nexorian ship touched down in a clearing within the Rocky Mountains, its landing thrusters barely disturbing the pine needles below. Hunt leader Vixel performed one final scan of the area, which showed exactly what he expected, nothing but local wildlife scattering from their arrival. Perfect landing zone, he announced to his eager hunting party. Scans show a human settlement approximately 20 kilometers north. We'll start there. 3 kilometers away, Commander Chen watched the alien ships landing through her advanced optical system. The corners of her mouth twitched upward as she tracked multiple heat signatures emerging from the vessel. Control, this is Phantom Lead. Visitors have arrived for dinner, though I think there's been a confusion about who's serving and who's being served. Copy that, Phantom Lead, General Thompson's voice crackled through her earpiece. You have full operational authority. Try not to have too much fun. No promises, sir. The hunting party spread out in a standard search formation, their high-tech armor gleaming dully in the moonlight. Each young Nexorian carried an array of weapons that would have made their ancestors proud: plasma rifles, neural disruptors, and traditional blade weapons for the final kill. Kenner, the youngest of the group, activated his biosensor suite. Hunt leader, I'm picking up multiple small life signs, nothing larger than a local quadruped they call a deer. He paused, adjusting his settings. Though there's some weird interference in the northern sector. Vixel dismissed the concern with a wave of his clawed hand. Probably atmospheric distortion. These primitive worlds often have unstable weather patterns. In her hidden position, Lieutenant Wong of Chen's team adjusted the settings on their quantum interference generator. The device, barely larger than a smartphone, created a field that played havoc with any scanning technology less advanced than their own, which, as it turned out, included Nexorian biosensors. Package is wrapped, Commander, Wong whispered into her comm, they're seeing what we want them to see. Chen's response was typically succinct, good. Let's give them the tour. The hunting party moved through the forest with what they assumed was stealthy precision. To the human operators watching through their multispectral imaging systems, the aliens might as well have been wearing disco balls and carrying strobe lights. Look at these tracks, one of the young hunters called out, pointing to marks in the soil. Primitive boot prints. They don't even use gravitic suspension in their footwear. The primitive boot prints had been left there 3 hours ago by Chen's team using specially manufactured soles designed to appear like standard hiking boots. The trail led directly into the first ambush zone. Vixel felt a surge of pride as his hunters followed proper protocol, spreading out to track their prey while maintaining communication links. Everything was going exactly according to plan. That's when the forest came alive. It started subtly, a rustle here, a shadow there, nothing their senses could pin down but enough to make hunting ridges twitch nervously. Then came the sounds, whispers that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere, carried on the wind. Getting some strange acoustic readings, Kenner reported, trying to maintain his professional demeanor despite his rising excitement. Could be human communication, Vixel suggested, though his own hunting ridges were beginning to flatten with uncertainty. Or it could be our acoustic warfare system using their own motion and speech patterns to create ghosted signals, Lieutenant Rodriguez muttered from his hidden position, fingers dancing across his tactical pad. But sure, kid, let's go with your theory. The hunting party continued forward, now moving with noticeably less confidence. They passed through stands of trees where hidden cameras tracked their every move, under branches holding concealed sensor arrays, and past rocks that housed enough computing power to run a small city. Hunt leader, one of the party called out, I'm detecting an energy signature ahead. Very faint, but it matches human technology profiles. Vixel raised his hand, signaling the group to halt. Remember your training. Humans are physically weak, but they compensate with tools. Stay alert for primitive weapons. Commander Chen watched the aliens react to the bait, a deliberately leaked energy signature from what appeared to be a simple camping site. Her team had spent days setting up this elaborate chessboard, and now the pieces were finally moving. All units, she whispered, Phase 1 complete. Initiate Phase 2. Let's show our guests some real hunting technology. Around the clearing, hidden panels in the ground and trees silently opened. Microdrones no larger than insects emerged, their sophisticated sensor and projection systems creating a web of surveillance and deception. The air itself seemed to shimmer as advanced metamaterials bent light and sound in ways that would make physics professors weep with joy. Control, Chen reported, her voice carrying a hint of predatory satisfaction, the classroom is prepared. Permission to begin the lesson. General Thompson's response carried its own note of anticipation. Permission granted, Commander. Show them why humanity stopped being prey a very, very long time ago. The first sign that something was terribly wrong came when Crick Sander's bioscanner started showing impossible readings. Heat signatures appeared and disappeared like ghosts, moving in patterns that defied both physics and logic. One moment his display showed a single human-sized contact ahead, the next it multiplied into dozens, then vanished completely. "Hunt leader," he whispered, mandibles clicking nervously, "I think our equipment is malfunctioning." Vixel checked his own readings, his hunting ridges flattening with concern. "All hunters, switch to visual confirmation only. Something's interfering with our—" The rest of his sentence was cut off by a sound that made every Nexorian scale stand on end: laughter. Not the nervous laughter of prey, but the cold, confident chuckle of a predator who's just cornered its next meal. It seemed to come from everywhere at once. Commander Chen's voice rippled through the forest, carried by precisely calibrated acoustic projectors. "Welcome to Earth, gentlemen. We've been expecting you." The hunting party instinctively formed a defensive circle, weapons raised. Vixel's training kicked in as he barked orders. "Maintain formation. They're trying to intimidate us with simple acoustic tricks. Remember, we are the hunters here." "Are you sure about that?" The voice came from directly behind him this time. Vixel spun around, plasma rifle ready, but saw nothing except shadows and trees. That's when the first human revealed themselves. One moment there was empty air, the next a figure in combat armor seemed to coalesce from the darkness itself. The adaptive camouflage made it look like a piece of night had decided to take human form. More figures emerged, materializing from what had appeared to be solid tree trunks, rocks, and even thin air. The hunting party found themselves surrounded by shadows that moved with precise, predatory grace. "Impossible," Vixel breathed. "Our scanners showed no signs of advanced technology." Chen's voice was almost gentle. "Did you really think those primitive tools you detected were all we had? That we survived and thrived on a death world like Earth with nothing but chemical propulsion and rolling vehicles?" She stepped forward, her armor rippling like oil on water, matching the patterns of light and shadow around her perfectly. "You made a common mistake. You saw what you expected to see, what we wanted you to see." And now, her helmet retracted, revealing a smile that would have made a veteran Nexorian hunter proud. "Class is in session." Part 2 ends with the hunters realizing they've walked into a trap and the first revelation that humans are far more advanced and dangerous than they assumed. Part 3 will detail the actual engagement and the Nexorians' desperate attempt to turn the tables. Vixel's first shot went wide, the plasma bolt passing harmlessly through what he thought was a human soldier but was actually a holographic projection. His second shot found only empty air as the real soldier had already moved. The night erupted into chaos. "Defensive formations," he barked, but his young hunters were already breaking protocol, their training crumbling in the face of an enemy that seemed to be everywhere and nowhere at once. The forest itself appeared to be moving, shifting, deceiving their every sense. "I don't understand," Kenner's voice cracked over the comm, "our tech is superior. We've conquered worlds, we've—" His voice cut off in a startled yelp as something yanked him upward into the canopy. From her command position, Commander Chen watched the aliens' formation dissolve into confusion. "Team Alpha, status?" "Target 3 secured," came the response. "Non-lethal containment successful." "These guys really don't look up, do they?" Chen allowed herself a small smile. Most predators don't expect their prey to have the high ground. "Team Beta, begin Phase 3. The ground beneath the Nexorian hunting party suddenly came alive with swarms of what looked like insects but were actually microdrones. They created a dazzling light show that played havoc with the aliens' enhanced visual systems. "EMP disruption field active," Lieutenant Wong reported. "Their weapons should be about as useful as paperweights right about now." Vixel's plasma rifle sputtered and died in his hands. Around him, he heard similar sounds of failing equipment from his team. Even their armor's environmental systems were flickering. "Impossible," he muttered. "Our technology is hardened against electromagnetic." "Against what you know about electromagnetic warfare," Chen's voice came from somewhere in the darkness. But you're not the only ones who've been evolving their hunting techniques. A figure materialized directly in front of Vixel, the adaptive camouflage deactivating to reveal a human in sleek combat armor. The design was unlike anything in the Nexorian database, no bulky servos or exposed joints, just smooth curves that seemed to absorb light. You know what your biggest mistake was? Chen asked, her voice almost conversational. You assumed that because we don't have natural weapons, no claws, no venom, no extra limbs, we must be prey. You never stopped to consider why. More humans appeared, their armor shifting from perfect camouflage to a matte black that seemed to drink in the moonlight. They moved with a fluid grace that made Vixel's hunting ridges flatten in primal fear. We don't have natural weapons, Chen continued, because we turned the entire planet into our weapon. Every tool, every technology, every advance we've made has been in service of one goal, survival. We're not prey species that developed tools. We're the species that became the tools. One of the younger Nexorians, Trixcar, tried to activate his neural disruptor. Before he could raise it, a small drone attached itself to the weapon, and the device crumbled into component parts in his hands. Nanite disassemblers, Chen explained. Courtesy of our R&D department. They've been dying to field test them. Your weapons are impressive, but they're designed to be weapons. Ours? They're designed to unmake weapons. Vixel watched in horror as more of their equipment simply fell apart, reduced to basic elements by microscopic machines they couldn't even see. Even their armor was beginning to show signs of degradation at the molecular level. But the primitive technology we detected, another young hunter stammered. The chemical weapons, the basic computers. Chen laughed, and this time it was a sound that would haunt the Nexorians' dreams for years to come. You saw exactly what we wanted you to see. Did you really think a species that survived on a death world, that evolved alongside megapredators, survived multiple extinction events, and still came out on top, would be defenseless? We let you see our primitive technology because we learned long ago that the best predator is the one that's underestimated. She gestured, and the forest canopy above them lit up, revealing dozens of hovering platforms that had been completely invisible until now. Each one bristled with weapons that made the Nexorians' arsenal look like children's toys. Your people aren't the first to think Earth would be easy prey, Chen continued. We've had visitors before. Hunters, colonizers, would-be conquerors. Want to know what they all had in common? They all thought they were the apex predators. They all learned differently. The remaining members of the hunting party found themselves herded into a clearing, their weapons useless, their armor failing, and their confidence shattered. Above them, the platforms maintained a silent vigil, while around them, the human soldiers moved with the practiced ease of true apex predators. So here's what's going to happen, Chen announced. We're going to have a little chat about interspecies relations, proper first contact protocols, and why it's a really bad idea to try hunting on a planet without doing your homework first. Then, you're going to go back to your people with a message. Vixel, his hunting ridges now completely flat against his skull in submission, managed to find his voice. What message? Chen's smile was cold and professional. That Earth is not a hunting ground. We're not prey. We're not even predators. We're the reason predators evolved to look behind them. In the command center, General Thompson watched the feed with satisfaction. I'd say the lesson is going well, wouldn't you, Lieutenant Rodriguez? Rodriguez nodded, but her attention was on another screen. Sir, we're picking up more signatures at the edge of the solar system. Looks like 8 ships. Larger than the first one. Thompson's smile grew wider. Ah, the cavalry arrives. Right on schedule. He picked up his comm, Commander Chen, be advised, Phase 4 is about to begin. Looks like we'll get to demonstrate our hospitality to a larger audience. In the forest, Chen received the update with obvious pleasure. Well, gentlemen, she addressed the captured Nexorians, it seems your rescue party is arriving. Good. I was worried we'd have to repeat this lesson. She gestured to her team. Prepare for expanded classroom capacity. And someone wake up R&D, tell them Christmas came early this year. The night was still young, and Earth's first official interstellar combat drill was about to become a full-scale demonstration of why humanity had remained at the top of their own food chain for so long. High Admiral Kexri stood on the bridge of the Nexorian dreadnought, Eternal Hunter, his scales shifting colors with barely contained rage. The distress signal from the training hunt expedition had triggered automatic protocols, and now 8 of the most powerful vessels in the Nexorian fleet were dropping out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of this supposedly primitive system. Status report, he commanded, his voice carrying the weight of centuries of successful hunts. Multiple signatures detected in the system, Admiral, his sensor officer reported. Most appear to be primitive satellites and debris, but... She paused, adjusting her instruments. There's something odd about their distribution. Elaborate. They're too perfectly placed. If I didn't know better, I'd say we're looking at a defense grid, Kexri finished, his hunting ridges rising in surprise. Clever prey. Back on Earth, in the newly activated Global Defense Command Center deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, Admiral Sarah Chen, Commander Chen's mother, watched the alien vessels appear on the quantum imaging array. A smile played across her face, one that her daughter had clearly inherited. Right on time, she murmured. Status of the Orbital Defense Network. All platforms showing green, Admiral, her XO reported. Quantum entanglement grid is stable. The Nexorians won't detect anything until we want them to. Sarah nodded. And my daughter's situation? Commander Chen reports Phase 3 complete. All initial hostiles contained with 0 casualties on either side. She's requesting permission to proceed with Phase 4. Granted. Sarah straightened her uniform. Let's show our visitors the full extent of our hospitality. Colonel Phillips, please activate the Argus protocol. Around Earth, thousands of seemingly innocent satellites and pieces of space debris suddenly came alive. What appeared to be defunct weather satellites revealed themselves as advanced weapon platforms. Apparent chunks of space junk transformed into sensor arrays more sophisticated than anything the Nexorians had encountered. In the Rocky Mountains, Commander Chen received the update and turned to her captive audience. Gentlemen, you might want to watch this. It's not often you get to see a species' entire worldview change in real time. She gestured, and a holographic display appeared in the clearing, showing the space around Earth from multiple angles. The captured Nexorians watched in stunned silence as their rescue fleet was suddenly surrounded by a web of energy signatures that hadn't been there moments before. Impossible, Vixel whispered. Your species barely has space flight. The technology required to maintain a planetary defense grid. Chen finished for him. To hide it in plain sight. To make it completely invisible until the exact moment we need it. She shrugged. We've had a lot of practice hiding things in plain sight. You'd be amazed what you can accomplish when your entire species evolves around the concept of strategic deception. In space, Admiral Kexri was coming to similar realizations as his fleet found itself boxed in by technologies that, by all rights, shouldn't exist. Admiral, his tactical officer called out, mandibles clicking in distress, we're detecting energy signatures consistent with. He seemed unable to finish the sentence. Consistent with what? Kexri demanded. With quantum phase weapons, sir. But that's impossible. According to our databases, humans are at least 3 centuries away from. He was interrupted by a transmission that cut through their communications like a blade through flesh. The holographic display showed a human female in what appeared to be a military uniform. This is Admiral Sarah Chen of Earth's Global Defense Force, she announced, her tone professional but with an undercurrent of satisfaction. I believe you've already met my daughter's ground team. They've been kind enough to provide your advance party with a practical demonstration of why assuming technological superiority without proper intelligence is unwise. Kexri's scales shifted to a deeper shade of anger. You dare to threaten the Nexorian fleet? We have conquered worlds that would make your primitive planet look like a training ground. Threaten? Sarah's smile was eerily similar to her daughter's. Admiral, if we wanted to threaten you, we wouldn't be having this conversation. What we're doing is educating. Your species isn't the first to mistake our visible technology level for our actual capabilities. You're not even the 100th. She gestured, and the space around the Nexorian fleet lit up with targeting signatures. Each ship found itself painted by multiple weapon systems that had, until moments ago, been perfectly concealed among Earth's orbital clutter. You see, Sarah continued, humanity learned a very important lesson early in our evolution. The most dangerous predator isn't the one with the biggest claws or the most advanced weapons. It's the one that makes you underestimate it until it's too late. We've spent our entire history perfecting the art of strategic deception. In the mountain clearing, Commander Chen watched her mother's performance with pride. You have to understand, she explained to their captives, everything you thought you knew about Earth was carefully crafted. Those primitive satellites. Decoys. The chemical weapons. A facade. Even our apparently clumsy attempts at stealth technology were designed to be detected. But why? Kenner asked, his scientific curiosity temporarily overcoming his fear. Why maintain such an elaborate deception? Because, Chen replied, in our experience, it's better to be underestimated. When you're at the top of the food chain, everyone wants to challenge you. But when they think you're just clever prey, they get careless. They get overconfident. They make mistakes. In orbit, Admiral Kexri was rapidly reassessing everything he thought he knew about this supposedly primitive species. The weapon platforms surrounding his fleet weren't just advanced, they represented technology that, by all rights, shouldn't exist for centuries. Your choices are simple, Admiral Sarah Chen continued. You can either accept our invitation to discuss proper diplomatic relations, or you can test whether your ships are faster than quantum-locked particles. I should warn you though, according to our calculations, they're not. She paused, letting that sink in. And before you consider calling for reinforcements, you should know that this little demonstration is happening simultaneously at every Nexorian fleet staging point within 50 light-years of Earth. Apparently, your species isn't very good at encrypting your military communications. That revelation sent a chill through every Nexorian present, both in space and on the ground. They had been so focused on hunting humans that they never considered they might be the ones being hunted all along. Now then, Sarah's smile became slightly warmer, though no less predatory. Shall we discuss the terms of our species' future relationship? I believe we can start with a comprehensive ban on unauthorized hunting expeditions. 1 month later, High Hunt Master Zexer stood before the Great Council of Nexor once again. This time, however, the chamber felt different. The bone spires that had once seemed to inspire pride now felt like warnings, and the purple light of their 3 suns cast shadows that seemed deeper than before. Esteemed council members, he began, his scales a muted shade of humility, I stand before you to present the full report of our diplomatic contact with Earth. The word diplomatic drew several hisses from the council members. Elder Crix's third eye narrowed. Diplomatic? Is that what we're calling the most comprehensive humiliation our species has experienced in 10,000 years of hunting? With respect, Elder, Zexer replied, I believe education would be a more accurate term. He activated the holographic display, but this time instead of showing scenes of seemingly primitive humans, it displayed the sophisticated technology they had hidden so well. The humans have agreed to share their findings on our initial reconnaissance of their planet, he continued. I believe you'll find it illuminating. The display showed layer after layer of careful deception, false energy signatures carefully crafted to be detected, primitive weapons designed to be seen while masking their true capabilities, and an entire planetary defense system hidden in plain sight. They knew we were watching them, Zexer explained. Not just recently, they've known about us and others like us for centuries. Every piece of technology we detected, every sign of their civilization we observed, was carefully constructed to create a specific impression. To make us underestimate them, Elder Crix concluded, her hunting ridges flattening in understanding. Yes. But more importantly, to teach us a lesson about the dangers of assumption. Zexer gestured, and the display shifted to show Commander Chen's team in action. They could have destroyed our ships at any time. Instead, they chose to educate us. In the temporary Earth embassy established in the Nexorian capital, Commander Chen was having a similar conversation with Admiral Kexri, though in a considerably more relaxed setting. The hardest part, she explained, sipping a drink that had been carefully verified as safe for human consumption, was maintaining the deception for so long. Do you know how difficult it is to convince an entire planet to deliberately use outdated technology in all their public communications and visible infrastructure? Kexri's scales shifted in what Chen had learned was amusement. I imagine about as difficult as it was for me to explain to my fleet commanders why we're now taking diplomatic lessons from what we thought was prey species. Former prey species, Chen corrected with a smile. Though technically, we never were prey. We just got very, very good at looking like we were. Back on Earth, in the Global Defense Command Center, Admiral Sarah Chen was reviewing the latest updates from the diplomatic mission with General Thompson. The Nexorians are adapting remarkably well, Thompson noted, scrolling through reports. Their entire society is undergoing a fundamental shift in how they view other species. Nothing like a complete paradigm shift to make you reevaluate your life choices, Sarah agreed. Though I have to admit, I'm a bit surprised by their request. The request in question was displayed on her main screen, an official petition from the Nexorian Council to establish a joint training program. Not for hunting, but for defense and deception strategies. They want to learn from us, Thompson mused. From prey to teachers in one generation. That's got to be some kind of galactic record. In the Nexorian Council chambers, the discussion had turned to the future. The humans have offered us something unprecedented, Zexer explained to the Council. A partnership based not on dominance or submission, but on mutual respect and learning. Learning what? A council member asked. How to hide. How to deceive. How to survive, Elder Crix interrupted, her voice carrying the weight of centuries. They've offered to teach us what they learned through millions of years of evolution, that true strength lies not in being the most powerful, but in being the most adaptable. She rose from her bone throne, her hunting ridges extended not in aggression but in determination. We have been apex predators for so long that we forgot the most important lesson of evolution, adapt or die. The humans never forgot that lesson. They never stopped evolving, never stopped improving, never stopped preparing for bigger threats. In the Earth Embassy, Commander Chen was sharing similar insights with Admiral Kexri. Your species evolved to be perfect hunters, she explained. Ours evolved to be perfect survivors. We never had the luxury of being at the top of the food chain, we had to claw our way up, step by step, innovation by innovation. And now? Kexri asked. Chen's smile was warm but carried a hint of steel. Now we're offering to help your species take the next evolutionary step. Not as hunters or prey, but as partners in survival. The partnership that emerged over the following months transformed both species. The Nexorians learned the art of strategic deception, the value of being underestimated, and the power of hiding one's true capabilities. The humans, in turn, gained insights into Nexorian hunting techniques that helped them further refine their defensive strategies. 1 year after the failed hunting expedition, Zexer stood in a new chamber, addressing not the hunting council but the first graduating class of the Joint Species Defense Academy. The room was filled with both humans and Nexorians, their differences forgotten in the pursuit of common knowledge. The greatest lesson we learned from our human allies, he told the graduates, was not about technology or tactics. It was about perspective. They showed us that true strength lies not in being the most powerful predator, but in being the most intelligent survivor. Commander Chen, standing beside him as co-director of the academy, added her own thoughts. And we learned that sometimes the best way to prevent conflict is to make sure everyone understands the true balance of power. Deception has its place, but so does clarity. In Earth orbit, the once hidden defense grid now stood as a visible reminder of humanity's capabilities, its presence a deterrent to any other species that might mistake technological restraint for weakness. The grid had been enhanced with Nexorian technology, creating a defense system that combined human ingenuity with Nexorian hunting precision. You know what the real irony is? Admiral Sarah Chen remarked to General Thompson as they watched the latest graduation ceremony from Earth. If they had just come to talk in the first place, we would have welcomed them openly. All this deception wouldn't have been necessary. Thompson smiled. True, but would they have learned the lesson as well? Sometimes the best teaching moments come from letting others make their own mistakes. In the depths of space, where the borders of human and Nexorian space met, joint patrol ships carried crews of both species. They watched for threats, shared stories of their respective evolutionary paths, and maintained a vigilant guard against any forces that might mistake either civilization for easy prey. And on 1,000 worlds across the galaxy, other species who had been watching Earth with predatory intent quietly revised their plans, realizing that sometimes the most dangerous prey is the one that's been waiting for you to try.